Ay, 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 ay.
We'll start by making the pie crust, and this recipe was adopted from Food 52's Erin Jean McDowell. First, you start off with some cold cube butter, and as you can see, I'm tossing the butter in the flour and then squishing it. Beforehand, well, I had to do this beforehand because I'm using margarine. So as you can see, there's a parchment paper. I had to measure out the margarine, refrigerate it, and then cut it into chunks. So after that, once you already squished it, you add a little bit of water at a time and then toss it till it comes together and forms a rough shaggy dough. The main thing to remember when making pie is the key thing is that everything needs to be cold. Even the measuring cup with some water in there that actually has ice cubes in it, so everything needs to be cold. After tossing and bringing it together into a rough cube, we now wrap in parchment paper and refrigerate for about half an hour. Now we unwrap and roll out our dough onto a well-floured surface. As you can see, there's some dough sticking to the rolling pin. I should have floured the rolling pin as well. So what I'm doing here is a process called laminating, where you fold the pie dough into thirds like a letter and then roll it out so that it has those flaky layers that we all look for in those pie doughs. If you have a bench scraper, this will make the process a lot easier. Okay, so what we're doing here is once again rolling out and laminating the dough so that it'll have even more of those buttery flaky layers that we're looking for. Now this will be plastic wrap and refrigerated for another 30 minutes. After it's 30 minutes in the fridge, this dough will now be rolled out and then shingled onto a pie plate. Trim off the excess dough, and these trimmings can be used to fill any gaps or spaces on the pie plate itself. Now take a fork and, as you can see, pierce some holes at the bottom of the pie dough. Cover it with some aluminum foil and then fill with pie weight of your choice. In my case, I will be using beans. Once weighted, let the pie crust cook for about 30 minutes. In the meantime, our pie crust is cooking. Let's deal with our veggies. Rough chop some bhaji, or as other places in the world call it, spinach. Rough chop it, then slice some onions. Also mince 2 cloves of garlic. I forgot to video that, but you'll see it later in the video. Now we cook our veggies in a frying pan with some olive oil. We add onions. We add our onions, the 2 cloves of garlic that I told you about earlier, and we cook that down a bit, and then finally we add our spinach. Now to season our veggie, first a little bit of salt, about a half a teaspoon of garam masala, and now some black pepper. Make sure everything is fully cooked down. Then on to the next step. Now for the custard. Now for the custard part of our quiche. We add 3 eggs into a mixing bowl with roughly about a cup of milk. I didn't really measure this part, but about a cup of milk and about half a teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg, freshly grated if possible. Now whisk this up and set aside. Now for the assembly. Get your par cooked pie crust. Spread out on the bottom. On the bottom, spread out your spinach, and now freshly grate some cheese all over it, as much cheese as you like. Spread out your cheese evenly. Make sure there isn't any on the pie plate itself, because that will burn. Sneak a little bite if you can. We'll ladle in our custard mixture and bake until our custard is about set. Now cut yourself a slice, cut your mother a slice, then realize the slice look better, give your mother the not so good looking slice, keep the better looking slice, and enjoy. This was actually something that I used to eat just before lessons after school. Really missed it, and I tried it, and it was worth it. Remember, you can cook it too.